The phone buzzed against my thigh while I reached for a box of cereal. Her name flashed on the display, my wife. "Where are you?" she texted. Her words felt tight, clipped, on the verge of breaking. "I'll 7, I typed back. "Getting cereal with our son." The reply came after a long, uncomfortable pause. "Leave the cart. Leave everything. Walk calmly to the front and get out." I stood frozen, still gripping the cardboard. "Why?" I wanted to argue. "I'm not finished shopping." "I can't just," her next message cut through me. "Go now." Her voice in that recording, when I replayed it in my head, had tremors of panic threaded through urgency. My son tugged at my sleeve, asking if we could buy the marshmallow cereal. I forced a smile, took his hand, and stepped away from the shelf. Each footfall felt heavier than the last. Something in her tone didn't say danger. It hinted at secrecy. It implied there was something I mustn't see. I left the store as she ordered, outwardly composed, inwardly splitting between compliance and growing suspicion. That night she moved as if nothing had happened, cooking, laughing, telling trivial stories, but her eyes kept flicking away and her hands trembled as she poured wine. She assumed I hadn't noticed. I had noticed everything. The command to leave aisle 7 replayed like a promise I hadn't been meant to hear, not for my protection, but to hide something from me. Later, when her phone buzzed in the dark, she snatched it up before I could even glance. "Too quick. Too nervous." "Work," she said when I asked. She worked in finance. A midnight call from the office didn't make sense. Lying awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, the house breathing around us and our son asleep down the hall, I felt the furniture of my life tilt. That store call was a loose thread, and I decided I would tug. I became methodical. I matched my days to hers, learning her rhythms. When she showered, I checked her phone. I scrubbed away texts and call logs she thought were private, traced emails, scanned bank records, and read browser histories. Not in fits of blind rage, but with cold precision, like a surgeon cutting out rotten tissue while leaving what still lived intact. The thing that finally broke me wasn't a ledger or a timestamp. It was a folder buried under other folders, photographs. The same smile in every frame. The same eyes with the same heat she used to reserve for me. Her hand on his chest, her mouth against his. I stared until my reflection on the screen blurred. I ordered a DNA test the following day, for my son, for me. Not because I loved him less, I already did, without question. But betrayal eats at the bones, and I needed an immovable fact. It took 14 days. 2 weeks of smiling at dinners, holding her hand in public, tucking our boy in at night while I smoldered inside. She grew more careless with each day, my calm facade cooled into something else entirely. When the kit's envelope finally came, I opened it with steady hands. The verdict was merciless in its clarity, probability of paternity, 0. A number that argued nothing, softened nothing. I folded the page, slid it into my jacket, and waited until evening. I set the paper down on the table without a single word when she walked in. She glanced at it, then panic replaced confusion. Her hands trembled as she read, her eyes widened, glassing with tears. "Please, it's not what you think," she stammered. I said nothing. Silence cut deeper than any argument. Words tumbled from her, fragments, half-pleas, excuses that veered into pleading. Her voice snapped under its own weight. I watched her unravel, detached. Power had shifted without a single raised hand. The next morning I packed a suitcase for her. I folded each garment carefully and placed the bag by the door. When she appeared in the kitchen, eyes rimmed red, face raw, I pushed the suitcase toward her. "Leave," I said once, my voice low and final. She opened her mouth, closed it, searched for leverage and found none. "I can't explain," she whispered. I shook my head once. "This house isn't yours anymore." "Neither am I." She broke completely then, the sound of someone learning, in one terrible instant, that the game was over. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I didn't strike. I watched her shrink, watched her become small enough to carry out through the threshold. The door closed behind her, and the hush that followed felt cleaner than anything I'd known. Our son sat at the table, absorbed in coloring, untouched by the poison that had stained his mother's mouth. He looked up at me with the same innocence that had always made decisions meaningless. I would raise him. I would love him. I would protect him. He didn't have to share my blood to be mine. As for her, she ceased to exist in my house, in my thoughts, or in the future I was building. Betrayal doesn't always end in fire. Sometimes it ends in absence. When she left and the room settled, I felt not rage or sorrow but a crystalline clarity. The last thing on my mind as I turned off the light that night was a single, precise certainty, sharp and unquestionable.